Hello, Jeroen, and thank you very much for agreeing to this interview. We are delighted as this will be our first activity to kick off the International Year of Cooperatives in 2025 in the Asia Pacific region. So we're very happy that you are available to talk with us. So let me begin by congratulating you and your team for a very successful global conference and General Assembly. It was held for the first time in ICA's 130-year history in New Delhi, and it was a success by all measures, be it numbers, representation, visibility, direction. And this is from our vantage point. But to ask you, how did you find the Global Cooperative Conference and General Assembly in India? And could you share key takeaways that you believe will influence ICA's direction in the coming years?
So, first of all, thank you, Mr. Balu, for having me in this interview. And everyone who listens in, it's my pleasure to give some experience and share this with all of you. So starting with your first question, indeed, Balu, it is for me a very exciting experience. As you know, I'm a newcomer relatively to the movement, so I have no material to compare. But I personally found it highly inspiring to meet already some old friends, but in particular to meet also new friends, to to learn from different corners of the world, different sectors of the world, how the cooperative experience is taking place, is shaping around, and that's beautiful. So it was in that case a very remarkable event. We showed the diversity of the movement, the resilience of the movement, and still also being united as a movement. So maybe my key takeaway is that that the ICA and its members have an urgent need to strengthen the cooperative identity further by highlighting the unique values and principles of cooperatives. We continue to differentiate ourselves from other business models and also will attract new generation of members, because I know that youth wants a better future and they can see what the cooperative enterprise model can bring.
One of the key highlights of the global conference was the kickoff of the International Year of Cooperatives. So it's going to be a whole year where there's going to be opportunity for us to increase visibility and awareness about cooperatives in all parts of the world, and specifically with youth, as you had mentioned. So could you share with us ICA's overarching vision for this milestone here? And how do you see cooperatives leveraging this opportunity to create a stronger global impact? And specifically the point that you had mentioned, that our identity is unique and this is what differentiates us.
So the overarching vision, I would say, is to position the cooperatives as key solutions to the global challenges of our time. And we've mentioned it over and over again. It is everything in relation to conflicts and peace, to climate change and the implosion of ecosystems, to poverty and inequality. Those are the overarching themes whereby we as a cooperative movement need to position ourselves. And I think we can do that best by amplifying our voice as good as we can, engaging governments, international organizations, the media, raise even more awareness and use the International Year as a gift from the United Nations to ensure that we can amplify that voice as good as we can, to empower also cooperative members. We will need to equip cooperative members with the knowledge and the tools to strengthen their organizations and advocate for their interests, and also foster innovation, because I believe that the cooperative movement can do much better, in particular in Principle 6, whereby we can use artificial intelligence, nowadays internet or digital technology, to fortify the movement in between us. I mean, access to finance, access to digital acumen, access to knowledge, and benchmarking ourselves. We don't do that enough. And I think the International Year of Cooperatives can be a starting point of awareness that we can work much better together.
Very true. I think if we are planning to engage with youth, then it's very important to look at technology and how we can show that cooperatives also have technology at their core. Would you like to also talk about, at least in the conference, there's a lot of talk about climate. And is that something which we should also be stressing on?
Well, you cannot look aside when the biggest of all changes to humanity is coming to us, which is climate change. We as cooperators need to have a position there, and not just in the talking, but also through the walking. I believe that cooperators are well positioned to show through their principles how we can build better energy solutions, how we can build regenerative agricultural solutions, how we can ensure within our ecosystem of cooperatives, for instance, our own trade platform for carbon credits, and how we can deliver a very concrete and tangible set of solutions that that can show the way. I think cooperatives are doing that, but we are not sufficiently bringing it to the outer world. I think we can do a much better job in terms of PR.
Coming to the Asia Pacific region, as you know, it's the largest region with the most members of ICA. And you have been to this region and visited number of countries here. So how do you view the region's role in the global cooperative movement, and how can its initiatives inspire other regions?
So from personal experience, I know all the dynamics in the world in terms of innovation, social um, contracting, building a new economy, optimism. It's happening in Asia. So the gigantic geopolitical shift to Asia is also showing itself in the cooperative movement. The sheer numbers, as you said already, Balu, the cooperative movement by far is an Asian movement, one could say. India alone representing a quarter of all the cooperators in the world, just one country, of course, the largest country. But you and I, we've been to China, where we met only with one association over 200 million members. And, and this is how the dynamic in entire Asia is. I don't need to explain that to you, what happens in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, but also in the Pacific Islands, in Papua New Guinea. There's such a boost to develop a new economy, an economy that actually has its roots already 200 years ago, but is only now getting really active, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi at our conference said. India, and I think it's not only India, but India has the spirit of cooperation. So this spirit of cooperation is a very Asian value. And I believe that Asia can show the way how we really can grow the share of cooperatives in the global economy.
Indeed, and Prime Minister Modi had also mentioned that this is a great opportunity for India and the global South to see how it can come together to create platforms, be it finance or others, in order to able to contribute at a larger scale. On a personal note, you will be completing a year with the ICA. So, looking back and looking ahead, what excites you most about leading ICA, especially during this transformative time for cooperatives? And do you have a personal message for cooperative members and leaders as they prepare to celebrate the International Year of Cooperatives?
Thank you for this kind question, Balu. I would say the word that come to my mind now, almost 1 year in this position, it's humbling. Humbling in the sense that you become aware that you can contribute with some of my skills to a movement that is so vast and so large and with so many stories. Every day I hear new stories, beautiful stories of what corporators are doing, be it an alternative for Uber in taxis, be it a service cooperative in some slums in a city, be it in the health sector. It's just this inspiration that really inspires me, Balu. I really get inspiration from this movement. There are so many stories untold, and if we just manage to bring them better to the world, that would be so great. And I hope, and that is my message for the International Year, that together we can find smart ways to let the cooperators be heard to others as well, not only to ourselves, but to the entire world. Imagine that 1 billion cooperators as we are, all together at the same second would send a message of one of the social media. I mean, those platforms will just simply explode with the great stories of cooperators. It will be an inspiration to many other people who are not being reached, who are being left alone, that there is a solution to become a member for, and that can really change your life. It's a life-changing community experience.
Uh, and I think, Jeroen, maybe if you could talk briefly in all this, what's very important also is the strategy that the ICA is coming up with. And 2025 will be the year when we'll get into deep discussion and have it ready by the end of the year. So, is there something that you would like to just touch upon on the ICA strategic priorities?
Yes, I have a few things to say on that, Balu. Thank you for raising the question. So first of all, the launching moment is important because whilst we've just opened 2 weeks back the International Year of Cooperatives, you and we are already planning for the closing of the International Year of Cooperators, and that will be when the second World Summit of Social Development will take place. And this is not an insignificant moment. It's a very significant moment because the first World Summit of Social Development took place in 1995. That was just a few years later when the dust came down after the so-called victory over communism. And we ended up with only one history, and that is the victory of the neoliberal capitalist model that had the promise to bring prosperity for all. We are now 30 years later, and I'm very happy that the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres also addressed at our opening these words that the cooperatives are invited to be at this World Social Summit to take stock of the social contract that was sort of signed in 1995. Has it indeed brought prosperity for all? Well, we do know that given the weaponed conflicts in the world that has increased, the increase of inequality, um, the huge climate crisis as we are facing, the model has not brought what people at that time believed. There was euphoria. It is time to take stock. But there comes in a new euphoria, I hope, that we can then launch our strategy and use the International Year not as a one-off thing, no, but as the beginning of what I would be hoping a 5 year sprint to implement the Sustainable Development Goals hand in hand. And the cooperative movement is the obvious partner to the United Nations to do that implementation. So for me, the next year is the moment to launch our strategy. And the strategy is all about the 4 pillars as we've been discussing at our global conference. It's about strengthening our cooperative identity statement. It's about nurturing new leaders, women, youth, minorities, high potentials. It is all about enabling policies, ensure that regulations, that multilateral instances endorse and strengthen the cooperative movement. And it is also about the future of cooperatives, where we want to use digital technology, as I already said, to ensure a stronger social economic tissue worldwide between the cooperatives.
Thank you so much, Jeroen. I think you've laid out the larger vision that you have for the ICA, not just next year, but the next 5 years leading up to the end of the 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. I think the ICA is lucky that it has you at the lead at this transformative movement. So we are looking forward to your leadership, and the message that you communicated today, I think, will also serve as an inspiration and a clarion call for our members to see how we can best leverage, how we can increase awareness, and how we can show that cooperatives create a better future for all. So thank you so much, and for taking the time and joining us today.
And thank you, Malu. And let me just add one more thing. It is only when we cooperate amongst ourselves that we are a movement. We only move when we cooperate. It is you and I and all the rest that are making this difference together. Thank you.
Thank you.